Donald Trump has been inaugurated as the 45th president, and it will always hurt to say that. I did a video in the early morning after the election night where I let my high emotions. Since then, I have mentioned in different wavelengths my unwillingness to accept Trump or anyone who aligns themselves with him without checking his bigotry. This is something I will never ever give in to normalizing. There is a deep need for historical and political education. I deeply understand the history that comes before me. I understand the oppression that is tied to my ethnicity, my lineage, my race. I understand the apathetic are never the ones who lead their people through the other side of oppression. Apathy is often used to allow or excuse one to be selfish, to focus only on taking care of oneself while criticizing others from the sideline. Revolution is motivated by high emotion, passion, and anger. The sacrifice to see any radical change through is not built on, oh girl, it's been like that, so why you worry? Ain't Solange got a song talking about why you mad? If she tells you I have every right to be mad? In June of 1921, Adolf Hitler became the leader of the Nazi Party, a political party in Germany. In November 1922, the New York Times ran an article on Hitler saying, several reliable, well-informed sources confirmed the idea that Hitler's anti-Semitism was not so genuine or violent as it sounded, and that he was merely using anti-Semitic propaganda as a bait to catch masses of followers and keep them aroused, enthusiastic, and in line. Between 1932 and 33, when Hitler was pseudo-elected as Chancellor of Germany, the equivalency to the presidency in the United States, I'm sure there were Germans, both Jewish and Christian, who had negatively torrid reactions, and I'm sure there was another Jew who was set on being contrarian. Like, oh girl, we been through this. Are you surprised these Gentiles haven't been here for us? It's in the Torah. Like, what was the Red Sea? What was the first? The second? The Shepherd's Crusades. Papal cities were just a thing like 20 years ago. They were kidnapping Jewish children to forcefully baptize them. Why is you surprised? You want validation from the Gentiles? We'll get through this. Ain't nothing. We know how obscene that is because we have hindsight and museums and blockbuster films to inform us of the doom that came through Hitler's hands. But who knew that in the summer of 1932? I do not believe that Trump is a Hitler, maybe more of a Mussolini, but we tend to be very elitist in how we view the past. Did you ever sit through history class and hear about a tyrant, a dictator, a totalitarian, and wonder why didn't the people just revolt when they were rising to power? Every time society is at the precipice of autocracy, we see the same pattern. Oh, they're not that bad. They're just manipulating the lower class. They're not gonna do what they say. Let's be unified. Love, not hate. That goes for the apathetic too, who enjoy the comforts of capitalism in a society they believe they are so removed from, until their comforts are removed from them. It's not just that Trump is the president, it is that we are now in a situation where with one slight tip of the scale, there will be no way out, and we are essentially fucked from all angles. First, Trump did not win this election via poor, uneducated white people. He won over college-educated, suburban, well-to-do white folks, your neighbors, your bosses, your doctors, your accountants. Think about all the people you interact with that place their whiteness above any other self-concern. They know Trump can't do anything he promised, and they still bought into it, both with their vote and their silence. Mike Pence is now the vice president. Call your cousin up in Gary, Indiana, and ask them how they feel about Pence. Find any Indiana woman who makes between 15 and 25K a year and ask her how her reproductive services are going. Wait, does she even have insurance or a good gynecologist? Does Trump even want the job of the presidency? Bush wasn't the whole villain. His VP, Dick Cheney, was. Vietnam wasn't all Lyndon B. Johnson. There was Robert McNamara, his Secretary of Defense. Here with Trump, we have an ultra-conservative Republican who is well-liked in his party in Mike Pence. Potentially all three levels of government will be controlled by the Republicans. The presidency, Congress, that's the Senate and the House, and the one seat currently open on the Supreme Court that the Republican-controlled Congress blocked since March Obama appointing Merrick Garland to. Which, I have to note, they moved forward on blocking his nomination since March based on a precedent set by the Democrats in 1992 when Joe Biden led the pack in blocking the first George Bush's nomination. Remember precedent and the bigger implications to what we decide on now. Back to the point, the White House, Congress, and the Supreme Court, all controlled by Republicans in 2017, leaves no checks or balances to stop Trump, Mike Pence, and whoever Trump elects to his Secretary of, and please do miss me with the Obama hasn't done anything for black people argument, unless you can name what a president can actually do specifically for black folk in the 21st century. Anything the Department of Justice works on, specifically police and prison reform, is led by the Attorney General, which Obama's administration has appointed 2 black people to. And they spearheaded the first and thus greatest effort to address prison reform. It is absolutely far from enough, but we need to understand based on facts what we are criticizing and not just hot button words or catchphrases. We currently have 31 Republican governors and 18 Democrat governors. If one more state elects a Republican governor, let's break it down. State governorship is the last protector of our Constitution. You need 3/4 of states to ratify amendments. There are 18 Democrat governors, bringing us to 26%. Lose one more and there's literally nothing stopping the Republicans. They then control 3/4 of the states to ratify any amendment of the Constitution. Republicans controlled Congress under George Bush's first term when 9/11 happened. They controlled it briefly under Truman for 2 years, and then there is Herbert Hoover, who did many of the things Trump is vaguely claiming and attempting to enact. You know, Hoover was president in 1929, kicking off the Great Depression. White men lost it and jumped out of windows. In the 21st century, disenfranchised white men are much more likely to go to their local Walmart, pick up an assault rifle, and enter. They are not going down alone. And as a matter of fact, before any of that happens, white men are already the biggest perpetrators of domestic terrorism. Why are you worried about Sharia law and ISIS? What about your cousins, Becky? I am not going to argue whether the potential autocracy that upon us is worse than what our parents, grandparents, or ancestors went through. None of them walked into the doom happy to see it again. I'm not eager to live through a tyrant of heightened violence. I'm not eager to go through another recession when my family has barely climbed out of the last one. I refuse to be docile and watch states continue on the pathway of voter suppression, stripping civil rights laws, intimidating black people from voting. I haven't even touched on our foreign policy and the current of right-leaning populism that is spreading throughout the Western world. What's up, Netherlands and France? Do you know what the consequences were from the Southern Redemption that killed all possibilities of progression in the Reconstruction? Do you realize what is upon us? Let us all educate ourselves.